Picture yourself by the Nile at sunrise, the desert glowing red. This land, known as Kemet or the Black Land, holds a history often misrepresented. Ancient Egypt is frequently depicted with Europeanized features in museums and textbooks, but the truth lies beneath layers of distortion. What if Kemet was undeniably African, built by African people with African wisdom? This is not a myth but a history under attack. Join us to explore why Kemet's people were black, why modern Egyptians are diverse, and how the truth about Africa's greatest civilization has been obscured for centuries. The Black Land, Kemet's African core. Contrary to popular images of deserts and pyramids, ancient Egypt's story begins deep in Africa's forests, mountains, and lakes. The Nile, its lifeblood, flows from Uganda, South Sudan, and Ethiopia, carrying people, traditions, and ideas through Nubia and Sudan. Kemet was a vibrant African hub, named for its fertile black soil and the dark-skinned people who built its wonders. Tomb and temple art depicts kings, queens, and farmers with African features, dark skin, broad noses, and curled hair. Egypt was closely tied to Nubia, its southern sister, through trade, intermarriage, and shared culture. The 25th dynasty's Nubian black pharaohs ruled Egypt, blending African hairstyles and traditions with Kemet's legacy. Daily life, from Nile flood celebrations to worship of gods like Isis and Osiris, mirrored African practices still seen today. Kemet's language, science, and philosophy were deeply African, reflecting the continent's heartbeat. Nubia and Kush, Kemet's southern reflection. Nubia, encompassing ancient Toseti and Kush, was not merely Egypt's neighbor but its cultural twin. These African kingdoms shared gods, symbols, and myths, with Nubian influence evident in Egypt's earliest dynasties. When Egypt weakened in the 8th century BC, Kushite pharaohs like Pi and Shabaka restored its traditions, preserving its spiritual legacy. Nubian art and architecture, from Gelbas temples to Karma's ancient city, rivaled Egypt's grandeur. Far from imitators, the Nubians were co-creators of a shared African civilization, connected by the Nile as a cultural lifeline. Colonial narratives falsely diminished Nubia's role, but its monuments and art affirm its equal partnership with Kemet. Stone, skin, and misrepresentation. Kemet's artifacts, paintings, sculptures, and reliefs clearly show African features, yet museums and media often distort this truth. Colonial-era restorations imposed European traits on damaged statues, erasing vibrant pigments to present a pale, classical image. Hollywood and academic biases further detached Egypt from its African roots, portraying it as Mediterranean or Near Eastern to deny African sophistication. Yet the evidence remains: the tomb art, hairstyles, and daily objects reflect African aesthetics. Correcting these distortions requires accurate museum labels, African-led curation, and media that highlight Kemet's African identity through vivid depictions and comparisons to modern African cultures. Echoes across the diaspora. Kemet's spiritual legacy resonates in African and diaspora traditions. Its beliefs in ancestors, water, and balance echo in Yoruba, Vodun, and Bakongo practices. Enslaved Africans carried these ideas to the Americas, where they survived as Vodou, Santeria, and other faiths. Rituals like sacred baths and ancestor altars link Kemet to modern African spirituality. Symbols like the Eye of Horus parallel Pan-African motifs of protection and renewal. Today, African descendants reclaim Kemet's legacy, recognizing it as a living toolkit for identity, healing, and resistance across the Black Atlantic. Why Kemet was black, yet modern Egyptians are diverse. Ancient Kemet was built by black Africans, thus evidenced by its art and culture. However, modern Egyptians reflect a diverse mix due to Egypt's position as a crossroads of Africa and the Middle East. Over millennia, invasions by Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, and Turks introduced new genes and cultures, blending with the African population. Upper Egypt retains darker-skinned communities closer to ancient Kemet, while Lower Egypt shows more Mediterranean influence. This diversity does not negate Kemet's African foundation but reflects historical migrations and conquests. Colonial narratives tried to sever Egypt from Africa, but its African identity endures in its land, rituals, and cultural memory. Kemet remains a vital part of Africa's story, connecting past and present.